Hey everybody, and welcome to the first episode of Live in the Studio. This is Shay and I's podcast that we decided to start once we launched the studio.
Yep.
Welcome to you.
Thank you. Welcome to you.
Welcome to you. I think it's fair to say we're a little nervous. I'm a little nervous. Are you nervous?
No.
Okay, never mind. You just.
I mean, if we had like a live,
take a drink, so because I don't have anything to say, so this is gonna be my pause mechanism.
If we had a live studio audience, maybe I'd be a little nervous. But I've been talking to you for many, many years, so
it's weird because I know I talk too much, yet somehow the thought of talking on like a microphone and camera, nervous. It makes me nervous. Although I know I can do it. Yep. It's just like this weird disconnect. So I'm gonna try to just focus here. Not here. Sorry. Love you guys. But so I kind of want to talk about the way we decided to start this. Really, the vision for the studio happened first. Obviously, that's why we're in a space, not in our living room.
Yep.
And we decided, really like, as I was sitting there thinking through like what would be some cool things to do, I remember my dad, I think said to both of us, I think you were with me when this happened, but he said to both of us, like, are you guys gonna, like, you're gonna be hosting all these podcasts, or are you guys gonna do one? And as soon as he said that, I started turning over, like, if I was gonna do a podcast, what the heck would it be about? Like, do you listen to podcasts?
No.
I don't listen to a lot of them. Like I'll listen to, depending on like who the guest is, I float around from like podcast to podcast if I'm interested in who's talking on one, but I don't listen to any one podcast regularly. It's got to be something I'm interested in hearing about.
Yeah, I'd really like to be the person who could listen to podcasts, but I can't listen to talking and do other things at the same time. So if I was listening to a podcast, I would literally just be sitting there listening to it. Like I can't do other stuff at the same time. So I don't tend to listen to too many of them, but
yeah. So for me, it turned into like this thought process of, okay, what kind of podcast would I be interested in listening to? And I know one of the things I thought was music, obviously, because that's kind of what we do. And I actually kind of feel like to some degree, it was more of a leading, like a God thing than it was like I was just brainstorming and came up with a master plan. It just kind of dawned on me. Like I just had the idea and it was like, oh, what if you did something where you did like live recording of people and talked about music and it was really just the name, like Live in the Studio is what came to mind. And then that sort of shaped the, like, what would a podcast called Live in the Studio be? Well, it'd be about music. It'd be about artistry. It'd be about what music means to different people and kind of who they are, where they come from, what they write, or, you know, anything music related. And then also just kind of be an opportunity to capture people performing their songs or whatever they love doing. It doesn't have to be a full song. It could just be, could be a cover, could be a song that they wrote, could be like just an instrumental jam. We have friends that are saxophone players or even family that are saxophone players or
rappers,
violinists or whatever. And also we have a ton of people like within the church too, worship leader friends. So covers kind of fall heavily in there. Different things. We just kind of wanted to provide a platform for people to demonstrate what they do with music and what they love and talk about it. And whether you come from, like, you're an instrumentalist or you're in a band or you sing in the church or you do whatever, just kind of have an opportunity to talk over the thing that I think sort of interconnects all those people, which is music. I think music is a bridge for a lot of different people. And I think that's probably one of my favorite things about it. You can pretty much have a conversation with anybody about what songs they like, except for that like 1 in a million person who's like, I don't listen to music. And then you're like, okay, I guess we have, what do we talk about? You know, at least that was me growing up. I was like, I felt like growing up, if you didn't like music heavily, you really didn't like me. Like I felt like I bothered people if they were not into music to some degree, because that's all I wanted to talk about. So then I thought, well, if that's what I like to talk about, that seems perfect to make a podcast on. So
yeah, as we were developing the show, I mean, obviously we're a recording studio, so the recording the live thing, that was always something I wanted to do. I always wanted like our version of like Tiny Desk Concert or some of those other web shows you see, but the podcast portion of it's kind of just becoming like the conversation we end up having with those people we record anyway. Yeah. It's just that we're, putting it on a mic this time instead of just having it in the room. It's
interesting for me because I got my start in doing live recording. So like my very first job mixing music was post-editing live performances of church services. And it was this very unique thing that I think, especially then, this would have been 2015, less people were doing even than they're doing now today.
Mm-hmm. Unless you're like a mega church.
But live streaming wasn't as big then. And we were post-editing. So when I started, it was like literally like resampling drum kits and tuning vocals after the fact. And really just doing the best you can to make a live performance kind of really, one, like polished, but two, everybody knows what it sounds like when you hear like something on like Tonight Show where it's really not edited very heavily. Yeah. It's just kind of like it comes across poorly, even though like if you were in that room, how good it would sound. There's just a disconnect between being live in a room and hearing like dry audio off a soundboard.
Yeah.
That I really have a unique, I think, I had a unique background and opportunity to sort of attempt to bridge that gap. Super young. I was 19 when I started that. So it kind of fits in perfectly with what I started at. And it's kind of this weird full circle thing almost, because I'll be 27 in October, which is weird. Yep. So it's been a while since I was doing that, but I'm pretty pumped to kind of get to apply it. We actually brought in a very near and dear friend of ours who is now our intern, who is editing these in post. Yep. Her name is Rebecca Lauren. We just did her album, actually, Prodigal. And I've kind of, it's been an opportunity to sort of teach her the ins and outs of vocal editing and stuff like that. So she's actually doing the behind the scenes edits on the audio, which is a really cool thing. We're super excited to have her. We got mugs. The mugs say
Patterson Recordings.
Yeah, and
live in the studio.
And then live in the studio on the back.
We're official.
So I'm excited to kick it off. I'm excited that we're here and doing it. And our goal is to get a bunch of different artists from a bunch of different backgrounds, different genres, as much as we can just connect with, and have them come in here and have conversations with them about music and what they love about it and how it's either helped them or what they've gone through or how their songwriting is or what it's like being in a metal band or I don't know, like whatever it is. It's like anything, just to kind of have a conversation about, I think, something that I'm pretty sure every one of us will mutually love, which is music. So, yep. And then to be able to kind of showcase who they are and their talent, I think is a cool thing too. And create community amongst musicians. I feel like a lot of times musicians are in isolation with what they do. Like, when I'm working on a record or when we're working on a record, like no one's around. No. Nobody's like, hey, what are you working on? Like, it's very rare somebody asks me like, what's your next project? Like, that's really, I think for musicians, we feel like that's probably not my business or whatever. So like, I don't ask other people like as much as I think I probably am curious. So just to kind of create an opportunity to promote and all that too.
Yep.
I think have I done it justice? I think I've done it justice. Yeah. So let's get into, for other people, these are going to be like questions we're going to ask them, but for us, it's more prompts to talk about. So
we already know the answer to all of these questions for each other, but you don't. So.
Well, but we don't really talk about them regularly either. No, we don't. It's okay. That like, okay. So, this is so weird. This is my wife. Introduce yourself and tell us your musical background.
Okay. My name is Shaylin Patterson, formerly Shaylin Jones. I am
taken, fellas.
Taken. I am 26. I will be 27 later this year. My musical background is pretty much the opposite of yours, actually. I grew up around music, grew up in a musical family. My dad is both a worship pastor and went to college for jazz music, actually. So it was normal for me just growing up always having music on in the house, always hearing him playing something, always at church every weekend for every single rehearsal and event that we had going on. I didn't really show a lot of interest in it early on. I dabbled in piano and guitar, and I was spoiled. I had access to pretty much every instrument you can think of, but he never pushed me to do it. He never pushed any of us to do it unless we really wanted to. So I didn't really pick up playing acoustic and singing until probably end of middle school, beginning of high school. I did the choir thing. I was never a choir kid. It was not my deal.
Only by force in like 6th grade when everybody had to do choir.
Yeah, I faked my way through solfege so bad. I did not actually know how to read music at all, but I pretended that I did, and then started being more interested in listening to music and learning how to play it probably around 9th grade. And then I married into it, and
welcome.
Yeah.
Now you're here.
I think earlier when we were discussing these questions, you were like, did music pick you, or did you pick music? I think it was something you said. And I don't
remember saying that.
I think I picked music because music picked you. It was kind of a weird sort of thing. Like it was just fun for me. And then I married into it, and you were like, this is what I want to do. And I was like, okay, I guess we're doing this. So yeah, that's my musical background. What's your name, Billy?
My name is Billy Patterson, owner of Patterson Recordings. Check us out at pattersonrecordings.com. So my introduction into music was a little bit different than yours. I did not start playing super young. I had grandmothers that were piano players, but that was really it. I had a very early like passion for music. I don't know if I'm supposed to look here or look there. I suppose it's just here. I had a passion for music super young. I remember being like 4 and 5 years old, and I'm originally from San Jose, and I don't know if it was just like the little area that we were, but there was like a brief period in time where rap rock was huge, rap metal, like Linkin Park. And there was a band called 1,000 Foot Crutch, or is a band called 1,000 Foot Crutch. But when you look their stuff up now, like you wouldn't tell that they were rap rock, but they were rap rock in like early 2000s. And I was like 5, 4, 6, like in that age range. Mm-hmm. And my dad, I remember getting Hybrid Theory. And I remember, I think the album was called maybe Rhyme Animal, or no, it was called Puppet. I think it was called Puppet, one of the two. And I got really into that sound. So I had an early introduction into just like pretty much loud rock is like the best way to describe it. Some of it, I think, looking back on it now, I'm like, oh yeah, like that was a huge influence. But when I was first listening, it was just like turn the headphones up to 12, as high as the little spinny dial will go on the CD player, and rock out. And that was all I did. Yeah, you grew up
going to lots of concerts and stuff, right?
Yeah, well, not lots, but the ones that my dad thought would be like kid appropriate, mm-hmm. like we would go to. I remember being like on his shoulders at a 1,000 Foot Crutch concert as like I had to have been like 7. We met the guy who leads that band. His name is Trevor, and we met him. I was like a little tiny kid. I got they had an album called it was their second record, Phenomenon. I think it was Phenomenon. And I had like the poster that they signed, and we saw Falling Up that day. That was a Christian concert. So I just grew up like loving that genre and just rock in general.
When did you start playing guitar?
Guitar, I started playing closer to like 13. I had a friend in school that basically wanted to enter a talent show, and she asked if I would enter it, and I was like, sure, I'll try my best. And I remember like learning the song and then like backing out of the talent show because I was like, this is kind of hard. And also like I think it was more stage fright than it was like not like a lack of confidence I could get the song, but I was pretty nervous in front of people. I think that was one of the things I liked about music is that it was a personal thing, and I struggled, and I still do, for crying out loud, to like be on stage and like enjoy that part of it. It didn't come naturally to me. So I started off playing guitar, and then started taking vocal lessons like a couple years into that. And then I took like a few piano lessons, but for the most part, like finger dexterity from playing guitar just kind of translated naturally. So I could play a lot of things, even if I didn't really know a lot of things. I just kind of worked my way through it. I know my vocal warm-ups like all the way up the piano, and then the rest of it, I just kind of established a chord progression either generally on piano or thoroughly on guitar, and then like build upon it as it goes. Did I say, do I need to add more to that? Was that enough of background? I mean, as far as songwriting goes, that kind of just happened in the middle of all that. I joined a band in 2012. 2010. Like 2010, I joined like one of my first bands, a band called Redemption's Cry. Look it up. It's 10 years old. Sorry about the guitar tone in advance. But that was, we went into a church service, and there was a group of people playing on stage, and they had a drummer, a keyboard player, acoustic guitar, and a singer. And I was like, you guys need electric. Can I join your band? It was actually like a pretty significant encounter for me from a religious point of view. That was like the first time I really felt like God prompted me to do something, and I just kind of did it. And it was like, they were 25 and I was like 15, and one of them was in their 30s, and it was a gutsy kind of thing.
Yeah,
and they were like, we can jam. And, but somehow God worked it out, and I ended up in that band for like 6 years, and I got a lot better and was immersed in songwriting and people around me that were, way beyond where I was at in terms of like skill level at that point. And it kind of, I didn't even think about it this way at the time, but it ended up kind of going to my credit that I was just in and around songwriting for so long that by the time I started trying, I had a framework and a reference, and like, oh, I've seen such and such do this. And like, I just had a feeling for it. It's sort of like how they say you're supposed to learn a language. You just go be in it. It was kind of like that. Like I was just in it for 6 years. And so when I did start trying to songwrite, eventually like something clicked, and I write more than most people would want to endure. I write about everything and anything I go through, whether it's good, bad, has to do with church, has to do with depression, stories about other people's songs or stuff, or not songs, stories about other people's life or whatever, or just scenarios that I thought up. For a while, we were trying to play in bars, and I was like, what's the coolest bar song you can write? And I just started trying to come up with something. And so kind of, I think for a while it was an escape of like, I don't have to focus on myself. I can focus on other things. And then eventually it became a kind of a tool for me to cope too. So it's like a dual, both, which really an escape is a way of coping too, but you get my point.
Well, that's a good segue. What is music to you?
Music to today. Music is a lot to me. Music is a job.
Clearly.
Music is fun. Music is an opportunity to help other people, to connect with other people, to cope with stuff in life. It's kind of my dream, my passion. Music is kind of the thing that I know, like that's where I'm comfy. If I'm uncomfortable, but I'm doing music, I'm the most comfortable in that situation I will be. So like if you put me in a group of people that's large, I'm uncomfortable, but if you put a guitar in my hand, I will be about 25% more calm and collected than I would be like if I can't. But if you put a guitar in my hands and then say, don't play, that's where we've gone wrong. Like I can't do that. What's important about it? I think the opportunity to connect with people is important. I think whether you're talking about a song like at a show or like a song for like a rock band, or whether you're talking about a song in church, or whether you're talking about just, you know, kind of like you playing somebody else's song, like learning a song that, like as a musician, like sometimes you just learn songs because you think they're cool. There's something about connecting with the words in that song that I think either sometimes, not all, this isn't like a definitive list, but for me, it's like it either helps me say something or process something that that if you were to just straight up ask me with words, like I might not be able to give them to you. Like sometimes it gives me the right words, the right feeling. Other times it is like comforting to know that like I'm not the only one that either thought that or felt that or whatever. And then other times it sort of promotes in worship, it like promotes things that are true to me and sort of refocuses me on certain realities that are like good to know, like God is good. You know, like you should believe that kind of regardless. And so it's one of those three things for me.
Okay.
What about you?
Music to me is art. Obviously, I think most people think that, but for me, I think in a lot of ways between the two of us, I'm much more of a feelings person, and you're much more of you put logic behind a lot of what you think. And I'm kind of the opposite. I'm more of like when I listen to something, I'm thinking about what I'm feeling, regardless of what is even being said or played or anything like that. So music to me is a way to feel in a way that's kind of, I don't know if constructive's the right word, but it's like, it's an outlet for
it's
that.
hard. There's no wrong way really with it.
Yeah.
Unless you like listen to music while you bang in your car windows, I suppose that might be a bad way to do it. But
yeah, it's important to me because like you said, like message and communicating that to people and building a community out of that's really important. But even from like an individual standpoint, I think it's important just to kind of sort through your own,
it's just like processing
thought processes. Yeah, it's a little bit more of a productive and constructive way to do that, I think.
It's also just cool.
That too.
Like it's just cool. So like you hear the certain guitar part, like it was just fun when I was first starting. I'm like, wow, that's a cool riff. Like, and just try to learn it. And
yeah, actually, when we met a long time ago, but when we first
we were
re-encountered
little
each other in high school, we were in driver's ed and we used to get out of class early. And I remember sitting next to you on the bleachers. I was so shy, so I was just minding my own business, just sitting there, and he scooched over and held out an earbud and was like, I want to show you something. Will you listen to this?
You were quiet. You were like the quintessential quiet kid. And I was like, she will talk to me.
And he hands me this earbud, and I don't know what you played, but it was heinous and it was loud and there was like some obnoxious
that was
screaming.
In high school. I was listening in high school. I didn't really worry about the content of what I listened to as long as it had cool guitar parts. So there were some things that I probably wouldn't promote in today's world that I was listening to at that age. And it was really just a matter of like, what's the heaviest, coolest guitar / like breakdown or whatever I could find at that age.
Like, listen to this, it's so cool. And I'm like, yeah,
so
it's
cool. Awesome. Yeah. Okay, let's see. What was our next question? Well, okay, I don't know how long it's been, but let's do this. What are artists that are currently on your playlist? I want to know this. I'm gonna open mine.
When we get into like the sort of routine where we're working on a lot of stuff, I actually don't listen to a ton of music because typically by the time we get home, I'm like need quiet.
Yeah,
at that point.
True. I don't really listen to music in the car as much these days.
So I don't even know that I have a ton of playlists that I've been playing a lot right now since we just opened the studio. But before that, I know that Colony House is a band out of Franklin, Tennessee.
And Let us open for you. We love you.
We're both really big fans of them. And
we name dropped you in our first episode, guys.
Yeah.
Like we've seen you a few times, and I think it would be fun to play.
They're kind of my fallback band. Like if I open Spotify. If I don't know what to listen to, I'll pull something like that up, and just, it's kind of like a comfort sort of thing. So I know I've listened to them recently.
Okay, so Colony House.
Yeah.
Give us two more.
I won't name the pop music I listen to when I'm working out or cleaning or stuff, because that's just to get me through those activities.
Okay.
So, but top 40 pop occasionally. Not that I'm proud of it. Gosh, what else? I know there's been a couple bands on the heavier side that you've introduced me to that I really like. I don't know what they're called now. They changed their name.
They're called Rain City Drive.
Rain
now.
City Drive.
Normandy is a band that you like a lot.
Normandy, yes. I haven't not listened to them recently, but
they're a great band though.
They're good.
Very, very good.
They are from Europe and they don't ever tour here. And I think
they're from Sweden. If I'm correct.
I believe so. But they don't come to America that too often, and I hope they do someday, honestly.
I'm gonna look that up. Name another one while I look this up.
Oh gosh. There's a playlist on Spotify that's like 70s and 80s hits, and that's fun for me too. That's got like Stevie Nicks and
they are from Sweden.
Beatles and some of those other just kind of classics. I listen to those sometimes. I don't think you do that too often, but
okay.
I do enjoy the older ones.
Bands on my playlist that I've been listening to lately. Memphis Mayfire put a new album out that I have been listening to a lot of. I liked a lot of their early stuff, and then they went kind of like, I didn't like a lot. There like 2 or 3 records in a row that I was like, not so much. I really like the new record. There's some songs on it that I think like shine above others. Make Believe is a great track. My favorite part about that record though, and this is the kind of stuff I care about, like that's not my favorite record, not by a mile. There are other bands I like more, but I just am super interested in the fact, like little details about it. So their guitar player is the guy that mixed this record. Mm-hmm. And to me, like I want to support that regardless of the fact that, you know, there's certain caveats about the songs and I'm like, okay, maybe this or maybe that. Mm-hmm. Like there are some very, 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 very strong songs on that I really, really like, even if not everyone. I think I'm probably, it's like, you know, there are records you like every song, there's records you like 2 songs, and then there's records in between. I think I probably like half of them, like mm-hmm. really, really well. And so in my book, that's better than, I mean, in reality, that's better than most, right?
He listens to everything with a producer's ear, so it's a little different than us normal folk
I have a bit of a hard time shutting it off. When I listen to music, it's like hyper analytical mm-hmm. about the actual mix and the instrumentation and all that kind of stuff. And it's not because I think that I could do better, because I definitely can't play better than them. I don't think I could sing better than Maddie. Like it's just like it's an instinct. I can't mm-hmm. not do it. So it's kind of this thing I wish I could shut off sometimes and just chill.
What else are you listening to?
I have been listening to Colony House is on my list as well. I feel like that's a repeat. City and Color is a band that I really, really like. That was one of my first inspirations, like from a songwriter's perspective. I was really drawn to kind of the simplicity of his music early on. He's actually the guy that I think he judged the Guitar Center's songwriting contest a couple years ago. And then who else have I been listening to? I've been listening to, on the heavier side of things, a band called Architects, a band called Spirit Box. I've been listening to The Devil Wears Prada. I've been listening to The Word Alive. Some of our friends, Chelsea Locklear, I've been listening to her songs. We just released a song with Steven Santos. We've been listening to them. I've been listening to a song by Sarah Michael Bowman. This is too many suggestions for you to look up at this point, and I realize that at this moment you're probably only going to look up one, maybe. But that's kind of some of what I've been listening to. I would be remiss not to mention The Classic Crime. It's like my OG rock band phase. I really love that band. Yeah.
So the next question, this is more for you than it is for me. Describe and talk about your songwriting process a little bit.
My songwriting process.
I don't really have one. I
don't feel like I have one, but I know I do.
I have dabbled here and there. I've written a couple parts of some of our originals and stuff like that, but it is really not something that comes naturally to me. You're definitely the 99% of what we've produced and put out is from that brain.
I don't songwriting for me is like a way, I think, to take like the jumbled mess that is going on. Like I'm a severely anxious person, like, or stressed person, or overthinker, however you want to look at that. And usually by the time I've written a song about something, like it's gone, like I'm done. And it just is like this brief moment of like, okay, that's out of my system. I can let it go. So my songwriting process, I would say, usually starts with me just sitting down with whatever instrument it's going to be written on, whether it's guitar or piano, and playing something until some spark of inspiration hits and I hum a melody or something, and for whatever reason, like a certain phrase pops into mind and I apply it to that melody and it works, and then I just kind of start riffing, and from there it's like a hit or miss. It'll either start happening and it'll like be more, or it will not take off the ground and I'm done. Like it's one of the two. I think when I do realize like, oh, something's going to be written out of this, I try to not overthink it. So if it's a secular song or like a song for the band, I just try to relax about it, and just sometimes like like if a verse comes to me, like the whole verse, and I get to the chorus and I'm like trying to find like, okay, like what's like the perfect chorus, and I like try to find a comfortable spot for my voice to sit in for the chorus, and then just mess around. And sometimes like it happens immediately. Other times it's like I play through the verse 2 or 3 times and like try to go into what the chorus will be. And eventually in one of those attempts, like something happens that I'm like fairly happy with, and then I take that and move to the next section. Verse 2 is like one of the best things to write, because you can either you have a cool melody idea, or you just apply the same melody from the verse and switch out the words. It's one of the two. And so verse 2, like if you can get verse chorus, then you have in a lot of scenarios, you have at least verse 1 chorus, verse 2 chorus, and then it's like, are you going to put a bridge or are you going to play a solo? And if you're going to play a solo, then the song's done. And so it's kind of, it evolves, and sometimes it's a little different than that. If it's a worship song, I'm really trying to focus on like what God would have me say through it. If it's a secular song, I'm usually, if it's because I'm going through something, I tend to believe, for me, that God is a part of every songwriting process. So I'm just looking for a way to survive whatever I'm writing about. Or I'm trying to capture the heart or the reality of something in life, or something that someone's going through or whatever. And I'm just really focusing on trying to do that well, but not being like,
can't force it.
Yeah, you can't. And so sometimes it takes like sitting there for 4 or 5 hours waiting for the right words to show up. Other times it happens in a half hour and it's like you're good and it's great. And both those things, in both of those situations, I know I will finish the song.
Yeah.
And other times I don't.
I think some songs definitely write themselves. Like you've gone into a room, shut the door, and come out and it's finished. And I'm like, wow, that was quick. And then other songs like take years, literally. I think one of the first songs we ever wrote / performed together, you had the riff for it way before any of the words were written. You fiddled around with that for a long time. And then
what song are you talking about?
I Will Never.
Oh yeah, I played that riff. There's a video of me playing the riff like in like 2000. Had to be like 11.
Like forever ago.
And we wrote it in like 2014, I think.
Yeah. So it definitely, varies song to song, but you do a great job.
It's a forever improving process. I depending on like where I'm at in life, I feel like I get better at one thing because I can no longer keep doing the same thing I was doing.
Yep.
So like for like writing bar songs, for example, like I felt like I feel like I could get better. That's not to say that I can't get better, but I feel like for me at that season, like 19 to 21, like I got as good as I don't know if it was that I didn't want to be any better at it, or if I really feel like that was like the most I could do at that time. I'm not sure, but eventually like my inspiration to write that kind of song ran out, and my inspiration pivoted to something else, and I started trying to write in a different manner. So it's kind of this forever new kind of thing. I don't ever feel like I've mastered songwriting.
I don't think you ever will.
No, I don't think so either. Okay. Let's do this. What's the best piece of advice you've been given by another musician?
I don't know that I was given this by another musician, but
musicians give each other advice.
Yeah.
Tune before the show. That was a good one. Don't tune on stage.
You did that once. I remember that.
I think I got yelled at for it.
Yep.
I don't remember though.
Best piece of advice. I don't know that this was from a musician, but it was definitely on like the music side of TikTok. It was somebody talking about music and social media and that kind of things, and how comparison's kind of the thief of joy.
Yeah.
And that, you know, because you're comparing your raw talent or, you know, performance level or skill level with someone's curated perfection version of something online,
it's like the
right?
Instagram effect.
It's like impossible. And basically just, you know, you can't do that. Don't compare yourself, you know, because I went through a long time of where I had like started getting into music, but never felt like anything I touched or did was good enough to put out there because it's not as good as this, or I'm not up to par with this level. But you got to realize like everything's edited, everything's filtered, you know, and you comparing someone's final version of something to you just working on it is completely illogical. So working my way out of doing that has been quite the journey.
I'm trying to think of like the best piece of advice I've been given by another musician. I do. Well, I'll name one that I really think I took to heart really early on, which was, that if I don't know what to play, or if I am not confident in what I'm about to play, don't play it. That was like live, you mean? As far as guitar playing goes. Yeah. I remember being at church and our worship leader at the time, his name is Blake, or it was Blake, or is, yeah, he's alive. His name is Blake. Sorry. He's just not the worship leader there anymore. So it was like I remember, I think at a certain point, like playing something that I feel like he's the one that told me this, but I'm not sure, but he would be like the only person that would have given me that advice at that age. Maybe my dad from being a listener, but being like, hey, if you don't know what to play, don't play it. That sounds bad. But I feel like it came from him. And I think it was just like this overall sense of like learn the part for these songs, right? Because at the end of the day, you're like covering a song at a church service. So like learn the part and do your best to play it, like as not necessarily even that you can't be creative with it, but learn the part so that you know it really well. Prepared. And be prepared enough to where you can show up and like basically play without the chords, or if something goes wrong, or if we miss like, you know, we decide like, oh, we're gonna repeat the chorus on the fly, like enough to where you really have the ability to work with, play things that sound good consistently. And I think that was something that I really learned early on as a lesson of just like, if I didn't know that something was going to work well, or if I didn't have like something planned out to play on the fly, improv is great. I'm not saying that improv shouldn't happen. No, if it's meant to be improv. But there was a preparedness level that I think was healthy for me to have, that like, if I'm prepared this well, then the improv will go well because I will know where I can improv and what I can do. And so it just kind of, I never liked, I think live overplaying even can be cool when the space is made for it. At church, overplaying is not exactly the thing to do. so it was a different environment. But that was a really valuable lesson for me. I think it helped me with records, because with arranging. Yeah. Well, like at the end of the day, like if there's a song and I want to put some crazy guitar part on it, but like I can't play it super clean, it's usually a better choice for me to scale that part to something that I know like I'm gonna be able to nail and get it across on a recording really, really well. Not that it won't be cool or creative, just to think smart about what I'm gonna do. Like, which I don't always do this with vocals. Sometimes like I intentionally ditch that and like I'm gonna do a vocal part that I know I can't. We'll never be able to do. Like it's gonna be so hard to repeat this, but I'm just gonna go for it. Or a guitar part that is over the top. Like there's definitely a place for that. But early on as a musician, like kind of forcing myself to just get super prepared and then do that, I think was super valuable. I really appreciated the level of preparedness that was expected of me looking back on it now. Although then I was like, man, this is a lot of work to get this part right.
Yeah.
Okay. I think we're running low on time. It's definitely been like 30 minutes or so. So I want to kind of jump to,
what song are we playing?
Yeah. What we're playing. We're playing a song called
Demon in You.
We wrote this
a long time ago.
Like a long time ago. This is for our band ALDERROSE. We'd play with a couple different groups, and by running the studio, we are playing on or singing on a lot of different records. But this is one of our personal songs we wrote. I think it was like 2015. We wrote this. I think we were 19.
Yes.
In an apartment. We got married at 18. So we moved out, I think
it was 2015.
Something like that. Yeah. And moved into this apartment. And I remember sitting down trying to write this song on our futon where like the middle slats were like broken. Do you remember this about that futon? And like you would sit on it and you would like fall in.
That was our broke year. Yeah.
Our broke year. You say that like it was only one. No, but I remember this song was like one of the first times that I think I tried to get you to come be involved in the writing process. I was like, please
do something.
Please help, like be a part, because the song will be better if it has like your style printed on it. And I think at that point in time, I had a personal goal to try to like build sort of a jazz, what I perceived as your influences, I would say is a fair way to put it, like a jazzy kind of sound into a rock song, which was like my influences. And I remember like, I feel like bothering you enough to where you came and sat down with me, and I was like, and I started playing a riff, and this riff that is honestly still one of my favorite riffs I've written, kind of evolved into what it was. And then at a certain point, you like start humming, and the melody came, and I think the verses, I don't think I would have been able to write without you. It was such a not, especially at that age, like a melody I would ever come up with. The chorus is hands down like,
it's rock.
I had that as soon as we got there. I was like, cool, a rock chorus. I got this, that kind of thing.
I don't remember writing it. We were talking about this earlier. I don't recall any of that, but I do remember probably a couple months later or whatever, meeting with our drummer, Daniel, just having a rehearsal probably for a gig or something like that. And we showed him the song, and he started playing along with it and put this ridiculous drum solo in the middle of it. It's not in the acoustic version. It's not in the acoustic version, but it is in the actual recording if we ever finally release it. But he put that in there, and we were like, okay, we got to include that, and it kind of evolved, and we've done it live a couple times. But
it's a fun track. I think it's super. I think it's unique, but I know in the world of music, technically nothing's unique. So it's hard to say that, but it's very accurate to, I think, some of the things that we really love in songwriting and stuff. I will say, as far as kind of the lyrical content behind it, it's really a song about having to kind of live with yourself as a person. It's demon in you, right? So the kind of the key thing, like you have to face who you are. Yep. And sometimes I know for me, like, I think the tough part in this was like not necessarily feeling like a great person all the time, and trying to like just exist with that being reality of like, you got to face it and you got to move on. And sometimes people make mistakes and blah, blah, blah. But I think, I don't even know that I wrote that accurately into it. I really wasn't thinking like, oh, I'm going to write a song about having to face yourself. I just was like coming up with words.
It was more about the music at the time.
It just turned into what it was. And I think now I look at it and I'm like, okay, like that's a cool message in a song. And I hope that it sort of, I don't know what I hope happens with this song. I guess maybe that for me, the hope is that like, I just kind of use the fact that like I know who I was and I want to be better. And that's where I took this song. That's not what you need to take away from it. That's just me personally. Whatever you want to take away from it, feel free. That's what music's about.
Cool. Anything else you want to say before we give the people what they want?
No, I don't think I have anything else. I think I'm excited. Thank you guys for listening. If you've made it this far,
Yeah,
this is our first one. So we apologize for the awkwardness that inevitably will come across on audio or video. And I guess we'll just say without any further ado, here is Demon in You by ALDERROSE.
enjoy.
There's no rest for the wicked, there's no peace on the run, there's no retribution when you live like us. Try to drown all your sorrows, try to hide all the pain, try to act like you don't care when it kills you all the same. Wherever you run, it's gonna catch up. When you look in the mirror, see where you have become. Turn away from the fear of the things you've done. All the people you cared for, all the ones that you loved, they don't see you anymore. They see a shadow of someone. Your past is killing you.
Thank you guys so much for watching live in the studio. We'll be back next week with a new artist and a new episode of the podcast, and we cannot wait to see you there.